Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tier List Tuesday. I think this is episode 3. Today, I'm doing a tier list of the Avatar: The Last Airbender characters. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure if I played the Avatar OST in this video, it would get copyright struck, assuming the bots actually watched my videos or anything like that. So, I'm just playing some random Tibetan meditation music instead. But, whatever. It's close enough, right? So, this is made by Link Gengar, and it's called Avatar: The Last Airbender Character Ranker Tier List Maker. Now, to give a little context, when this show was first coming out, I was a child, and I watched it. I don't know if I watched every single episode, but I definitely watched a decent number of them, and I watched, the final... the finale, I guess. I watched the finale. So, I'm pretty familiar. I also rewatched it again a couple years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's cool. So it's not super fresh in my mind, but it's not like it's a crazy long series. And especially a lot of those early episodes don't have a ton of important things going on. So, as far as how I'm going to actually rank the characters, I guess I'll rank them based on how interesting I think their character is and like their storyline and maybe their development overall. I don't know. It's going to be kind of random, but we're just going to go through it. So here we've got Aang, or Aang, I think they call him in the live action version, which I've never seen. Nope, that's a lie. I did watch the live action version after rewatching the animated version, or the original, and it's pretty bad. But I mean, Aang's, most of the main cast of characters, I'm not gonna lie, most of the main cast of characters are probably gonna go in S, because I think that's one of the things that has really stood the test of time about the show, is just the development of the characters. And it's not that they're like super complex, but it's just, especially for like a kid's show, there's a lot more depth to the characters than you would really imagine there would be. And I think Aang, while it's kind of cheesy to put him S tier, I think that he does have a journey, right? It's him coming to terms with how he's going to resolve this conflict, coming to terms with his destiny and his identity and who he really wants to be, but also learning about this world that he essentially is a stranger in. Right? I mean, it's 100 years into the future. Imagine, you going 100 years in the future, you going 100 years into the past, out of place you would be. And so, honestly, he's not necessarily my favorite character, but he's definitely, he's the main character. So, what can I say? We got Appa. Whatever, man. You can't hate Appa. I'll put him B tier. I mean, he has that one episode where he, gets captured, and then he has to try and find his way out because he escapes. That episode is cool. I don't really remember... Was that the one that was the, I think it might have been its own dedicated episode, but it might have also been the one that was, the stories from Ba Sing Se or whatever. But I think he had his own episode, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, because I think the Tales from Ba Sing Se was Momo, right? So, yeah, Appa... whatever. Honestly, he's really probably more of a C or D because he has no character development, but you can't hate. Azula. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think Azula is one of my favorite characters in the show for sure. Azula and Zuko, probably top 2 for me. Definitely, as a kid, you kind of look at her and you're like, man, she's just a villain. Right? And she just is evil, and that's her character. And I think to an extent that is not an inaccurate analysis, that she is kind of evil, but I don't think that it's out of the question to say that I think it could have been different, right? And I think that's part of her characterization, is that, at least in the show, I mean, I think in the comics there's a little bit more. I don't know anything about any of the comics, I'm not gonna lie. I also haven't really watched The Legend of Korra. I watched a couple episodes, just as another disclaimer and preface. But you know, I think especially towards the latter half of the Book of Fire, it definitely shows that she has a lot more to her, and I think she has a lot more struggles than she lets on, right? And I think that's something that you shouldn't take for granted when it comes to her character. And I don't know, I kind of like the evil characters in general. I like evil characters that show complexity. You know, they don't necessarily have to be like, I don't know, hurt inside and be like, I could have been good, but instead I turn out evil. That's not necessarily what it needs to be. But I just enjoy villains with complexity, and I think that Azula is definitely one of them. Definitely a lot more complexity than Ozai. We got this dude. I don't remember his name. I think it's like Sokka's father, or, you know, Sokka and Katara's father's friend. Maybe it's their uncle. You know what? It might be Sokka and Katara's uncle. Now that I think about it. I don't know. Does he do anything? I don't think so, really. But, like, I'm pretty sure he's just a cool guy. He might not even be their uncle. He might just be, like, their dad's friend. Whatever. He's C. Cabbage guy. I don't care. I don't really care about him as a character. I'm not gonna lie. You know, the whole thing, it's not that funny to me. Just the whole running joke of the cat. I mean, it's, you know, it's good enough to put it in C. It's not that it's like unfunny. It's just like, okay, whatever. And maybe that is because it's on a rewatch. It's like I kind of get the joke and I already know that it's happening. And maybe it's just a bit too meta for me. But yeah, I don't find it that interesting. We got Mr. Boom Boom guy. I don't think that's actually his name, but I don't know. You know, he's one of those villains that doesn't really have any character to him, right? And it's kind of like, how does he even work? He's like, yeah, he's a cool villain to an extent, but he has literally no characterization other than like he's a bounty hunter, which kind of makes me want to put him in D. I don't know, Flashy Boom Boom, and then he just like dies. Right? Like, we literally know nothing about this guy. He comes out of nowhere. The way that his bending works, we don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, meh. He's kind of a meh character. By the way, let me actually turn the music up. I'm realizing it's a little bit quiet, so apologies for that. I'm gonna put him in D. Like I said, I like, you know, complex villains. I like characters that have depth. He has none. No personality. I don't think he says anything, which like kind of makes him cool, but also kind of makes him like, who cares? To me. We got this dude, the sand guy. Did he have a character arc at all? Like, is he actually a character? Doesn't he just steal Appa and then they like try to fight him and then that's it? I don't think this guy is important at all. I don't have anything to say. He doesn't do anything. He appears in one episode, doesn't he? Maybe I'm forgetting. Like I said, it's been a while, but yeah. Alright, we got old dude. Aang's teacher. I don't remember what his name is, or very much about him at all. I mean, does he appear outside of book 1 in flashbacks? He might have appeared in like 1 or 2 flashbacks in books 2 and 3, like maybe during some meditation or dream sequences. But overall, I don't know. B? Like, he's definitely a baller, and he did some cool things for sure. And, you know, he taught some lessons to Aang, I guess, and he seems like a cool mentor figure, but I feel like we don't really see a ton about him, right? A little bit sad we didn't really get to see him do his thing, right? I mean, you obviously have the scene in Season 1 where he's surrounded by the corpses of the Fire Nation soldiers, so clearly he had some bending potential, right? But we don't really get to see that, unfortunately. So I think I have to put him in B. Tara and Sokka's father. I don't remember his name either. What? I don't know, man. I'm not gonna lie. Does he really do much? Like, I guess there's a little bit between him and Katara, right? But I feel like they don't focus too much on him, right? It just, he leaves for war, and there's not a ton of resolution to that storyline other than like, sorry, right? Like, sorry that I left, and that's pretty much it. And like, they kind of forgive each other and they try to mend their relationship, but there's not really a ton there. I don't know, bro. I don't really care. I don't really care about him. I feel like I think it's definitely important that he showed up, but I don't think that him showing up was important for his character, right? It was important for Katara and it was important for Sokka. I think more so for Katara in that moment, but even then, like, I feel like as the show went on, their relationship didn't matter a whole lot, except for the episode where they had to break him out. I mean, obviously he shows up in during some of the battles, but I don't know. Am I putting too many characters too low? Like, I'm trying not to put all the characters super high. I'm trying to be at least somewhat critical. But I mean, honestly, these characters, they're just not that important, right? Like you don't watch this show for their dad or for the cabbage guy, right? You watch it for the main cast of characters, so I'll get to them eventually. Old Lady Bloodbender, she was like one of the first characters I saw on this tier list, and I was like, I don't know where to put her because I think I want to put her in B. She's only in one episode, and she's only relevant to like 2 episodes, right? But I think that her impact on Katara and like her character arc in those 2 episodes is pretty important at showing, like, I mean, it's been shown before, but you know, she's somebody who's willing to get stuff done, and like, she's bad, bro. Like, she can do some crazy stuff, and the episodes in question, obviously there's going to be spoilers. I guess I should preface with that, but there's going to be spoilers in this tier list maker. The episode where she goes after, I guess it was her mother's killer, right? I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And she had the opportunity to like kill him, and I think she bloodbends him, I believe. I might be completely crazy, but I thought that's what happened, which is why I'm bringing her up, or that episode up during the discussion of this character. If that doesn't happen, ignore this. But it kind of shows what Katara could have become if she, gave in to her anger, I guess. And so I think in that aspect, even though the character herself is not like super interesting, it does offer us a glimpse into what could have been. This dude is just like the earthbender guy, right? Whose dad was in prison for being an earthbender. I don't care about him at all. That was close. I almost put Iroh and oop. No, I mean, this guy, like, I'm pretty sure this is the dude who's the earthbender and his dad's the earthbender, and then they all break out. Oh my god, watching that episode, or like watching that in the live action movie was so stupid because there was no payoff. It was like, why is this even a thing right now, right? Like, this is not important to the movie's story. And I think that is the biggest complaint that I have about the show, is just like, the season 1 is super episodic, where the storylines don't really tie together almost at all until the very end of the season, and even then it's like barely. But yeah, I mean, who cares about this guy, right? Like, I think they show up during the battle for where they try to storm the capital of the Fire Nation during the eclipse or whatever, but literally who cares? Iroh, everybody knows, right? Like, it's kind of crazy. I actually think my 3 favorite characters in the show are just all Fire Nation, right? I mean, I think they just did such a good job of making the characters feel like important and impactful to you, even though they were, in theory, on the villain side, right? And obviously we're going to get to the most important one of those 3, spoiler alert, later on, but definitely, I mean, Iroh, even though he doesn't change a lot throughout the show, he's just a solid character, and he's just a huge guiding force throughout the entire story for not just Zuko, right? Like, I think he has a conversation with Toph, and I think that his wisdom, permeates throughout the main cast through his interactions with Zuko and Toph. We got this guy, Jingen or something. I don't remember his name. He's like the firebending guy who Aang goes to in like book 1, and then he refuses to teach him afterwards, and he's whatever. See, he's another one of those characters that's like, war is bad, and like that's kind of his storyline. And I mean, he does offer a little bit for Aang, showing that like Aang is still young, he still has a lot of room to grow and room to learn and to mature, but overall his character doesn't really matter. Jet's another one similar to the old lady, where it's kind of like his purpose is to show like what these characters could have become, except I think he's more, Sokka coded, because he doesn't have bending. But his interactions with Sokka are not super plentiful outside of the first episode that they're in. But I mean, he really is just like a tragic character, to be honest. So, you know, I'll go and put him, he'll be the first A. It's kind of funny there hasn't been an A yet. We're going to get some, don't worry. But, yeah, I mean, just storyline is super, like, sad and depressing, right? I do think that they could have probably done a slightly better job of showing him as being, like, morally conflicted himself, rather than just being, like, this angry kid who, you know, makes rash decisions. But overall, I think he's an interesting character. I don't remember her name. May. It's not May, right? May is her, Zuko's actual girlfriend. You know what? She's interesting. Even though she only shows up for like 5 minutes and like there's not a ton of character development, I think that she's kind of an interesting character in terms of what she... I know I'm being super hypocritical throughout this entire thing. I know, just move on, okay? Like, I know she has no characterization, she has no personality, she just is there. Well, she has a personality, but I don't know. She offers a lot to Zuko's character, I think, and, you know, it's all these stepping stones, right? Dang, Zuko's the last character on this list. You know what? I'm just gonna do Zuko now. I think without a doubt, Zuko's the best character in this show. Like, without a doubt, I think he's the best character in this show, and I think that he is one of the biggest reasons on the show's success, because it's not that his journey is like unique throughout fiction, right? But I just think that it's good, right? Especially, again, for a kid's show, right? Keep in mind, even though this can be enjoyed by people of all ages, at the end of the day, it's meant to be enjoyed by younger audiences, right? I mean, you know, teenage, young teen, whatever, tween audiences. But still, I think that the way that his character is portrayed and the episodes that he has by himself, like, I think the Earth Nation one where he's by himself, he's like roaming around with like his little bird thing, his chocobo, basically. Great episode. The episode that he had with the Earth Nation girl, great episode, right? His journey of just throughout the entire thing, you know, his strained relationship with Iroh and, you know, coming back to him. That's great. You know, becoming like just reconciling with himself, who he is, his identity, who he wants to be, right? It's so good. Best character by far, and a great foil to Azula, right? I think that even though Aang and Zuko are generally the foils to each other, Zuko and Azula are also great foils to each other, right? And the fact that he's in between, like, honestly, Zuko is basically the main character of the show. Not gonna lie. This character, nobody cares. She's like the tour guide for the main cast whenever they're in Ba Sing Se. She ends up getting replaced after like one episode. And that's the extent of her importance to the story. Listen, I love Jennifer Hale. I don't care about this character. I think she shows up twice, right? Like, she shows up once whenever Zuko's trying to chase the Avatar, and she shows up again whenever they're chasing Iroh. And that's it. Who cares? I mean, her mount's cool. Her little pet is cool, and like I said, Jennifer Hale's great, but character is not important. Katara. Alright. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I probably talked about all the characters that are S tier. Alright, Katara's going an A. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen the show, and Katara's cool in her own right. She has her moments. Overall, I don't think her journey as a character is as impactful for me and as interesting for me as the current S tier characters. Like, I don't think that her impact on the story is as important. Like I said, she's cool, and she does develop over time, and she becomes a really strong waterbender, right? And bloodbender, I guess. But just overall, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but whatever. I mean, she's A tier. That's still cool, right? Like, she still has interesting developments. Like I said, especially, you know, in that episode where she goes to hunt, like her episode with Zuko, I guess, where she goes to hunt the person who killed her mother. I think that's a great episode. But overall, It's not enough to put her into S. King Boomy, he's cool. Whatever. Not a ton of characterization again, but he's just a bad dude, bro. Like, old guy who can beat up lots of youngsters. That's cool. The King of Ba Sing Se, boring. I'll give him C just because, you know, it's like he kind of displays the arrogance of the nobles and the masses, right? I think that's like a big part of the Ba Sing Se story is it's like nobody really knows what's going on except for those that are truly in charge, and they're all at the whims of those people. Speaking of, this guy, not gonna lie, he's pretty similar. Like, the whole Ba Sing Se storyline, it's cool-ish, but it's meh. I feel like if the show went on for longer, it would have been cooler to see more on that, but it's kind of just like, yeah, they've got this secret police, and it's bad, and then they get taken over by the Fire Nation, and that's it. Like, I feel like that's the resolution of that whole secret police storyline is they're taking over now. Meh. Oh God, I feel so stupid for not remembering her name. For some reason, I feel like it starts with a K, but you know what I'm talking about. I mean, she's the Avatar, right? She's the Avatar who I think canonically is like the one that killed the most people. Like, she's the most ruthless Avatar. She's cool. I don't know, Earthbender, Lady Avatar, whatever. It's cool, I guess. I don't know. I feel like in general the previous Avatars don't have a ton of characterization. I mean, the one that has the most is Fire Nation dude. Dang, I should have rewatched this show before this. I don't remember like any of the characters' names. But yeah. Meh, she's meh. The old Avatars, I don't really care about them too much, to be honest. Their only purpose in the story is guiding Aang and kind of like him looking to the past and figuring out like, what do you think I should do? I need help because I don't know what to do. But then Aang's entire storyline is, it doesn't matter what, you know, the past Avatars think I should have done. I'm going to take my own path, right? This guy is one of Jet's friends. I don't really care. All of Jet's friends are going in D tier because, yeah, this is Jet's friend, right? I don't care about any of them. That's it. Jet's the only interesting character out of them. I mean, I guess they kind of have their moment where they kind of become good guys, and like they were kind of just playing along with Jet, like going with the flow. And fair enough. Does one of them die? You know, I think this guy dies. Am I crazy? I know Jet dies. Does this guy also die? Whatever. I'm gonna leave him D tier. They're fine enough characters. Like I said, they kind of show like the innocence of youth and all that, but overall, they're meh. May. Not gonna lie, I don't dig her character very much. The fact that she betrays Azula in the end is kind of cool, but I think her and Zuko's relationship is just... biggest mistake the show made was having them continue their relationship. I feel like... I don't know, man. I mean, listen, maybe the comics made it better, but overall, I just feel like it was so meh. Like, it seems like, you know, their whole thing was that they were just trying to be rebellious, right? But it just doesn't really make sense, because, like, Zuko's whole character was about, like, filling in those shoes of the nobility and, like, I don't know, whatever. I don't think her character's that interesting, in my opinion. This guy... meh, he's C. I mean, he's like the mad scientist type, except he's not mad, he's just a scientist, and his whole character arc is, my creations have been used for bad. And then he uses them for good, kind of. But, overall, his storyline is just, it's boring, right? It's like, I did what I had to do, and you know what? Fair enough, I actually respect that, okay? I respect doing what you have to do, but also, like... he's there. He shows up in like 2 episodes. I don't care about him. A lot of these characters only show up like once or twice. Is this another one of Jet's friends? Are these the same person? I'm confused. Momo, whatever. I'll put him in B. He's up there with Appa. Dang, there's a lot less interesting characters than I thought. I mean, I guess we're not really in the main cast, are we, right? Like, most of these characters are just side characters that show up in, like, one episode, so whatever. That's probably why they're low characters. But, yeah, Momo, he's in the same tier as Appa, like I said earlier. I think Momo has a little bit more characterization, to be honest, than Appa, just because he does more things in the show, but overall, they're about the same. They're just animals. Ozen? That's right, isn't it? Ozen? Fire Lord Ozen? Am I getting him mixed up with Aizen from Bleach? I'm not gonna lie, he's not that interesting of a villain. He's kind of boring. He's voiced by Mark Hamill. That's cool. He does some cool stuff in the finale of the show. Really cool stuff in the finale of the show. And I think that his character is interesting enough in kind of showing, like, you know, he's just a villain, honestly. Like, he's just a villain, and like the authority and power hungriness that he has, it's cool enough, like I said, but overall not the most interesting villain. He's not the most interesting Fire Lord that we're gonna look at. Speaking of, this guy, is this Sozin? Is that right? Fire Lord Sozin? He's the friend of Fire Lord Roku, that's his name, I believe. I think he's more interesting of a character, even though we don't really see his journey throughout the show. His journey is kind of like, you know, he starts off as just being this guy who has dreams of peace, right? But then that dream for peace requires him to basically take over the world, and he ends up becoming corrupted by that dream. And I think that journey is kind of interesting, more so than Ozen's just desire to take over the world. Who cares about this guy? Listen, he's sexist. He stops being sexist. Cool. I'm taking too long on this tier list because I'm talking about these minor characters too much. Nobody cares about them. They show up once. Okay. Well, you know what? This guy's cool. I'm going to put him in B just because, you know, even though he has a lot of importance towards Sokka's character development, obviously, he's the one who kind of teaches him to wield the sword. And he is kind of like an Iroh-esque figure. You know, they're both in the same order of like the White Lotus or whatever I believe it's called. Overall, I don't know. You know, I could see him being an A. Screw it. We're moving him to A. I think that he does show nice things about the Fire Nation, and you know, it's like, guess what? We're masters of our craft. We don't care who you are, where you come from. All we care about is talent and effort, and I think that's respectable. And also, he likes peace. So, Fire Lord Roku. Sorry, he's just an avatar. Again, he's in the same tier as this avatar, which I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. But we got Suki. I do remember Suki. And we got her, who starts with a K, maybe. Anyways, I'm just gonna move on. Listen, Roku, he has a big presence in the show, but overall, I don't think he has a ton of characterization. I don't think he's very interesting. I don't really care about his story. I care more about Sozin's development than Roku, because Roku doesn't develop as a character. He starts off as being like, I like peace as the avatar. And he ends off as being, I like peace as the avatar. And now I'm dead. Like, that's it. Sokka and Katara, I feel like, are in the same boat for me. I'm not gonna lie, I think, you know, like I said, both of them have their moments, but overall, I do think Sokka has more character development than Katara, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know, man. Listen, it's been a minute. It feels like, you know, Katara's character arc probably, if I'm remembering correctly, is all about being like super serious to being more freeform and open to whatever. And Sokka's whole character development is like, I'm super open and like not serious, and like sometimes I gotta be serious. And like that's it, right? Like they're kind of not polar opposites, but they're on two sides of each issue, and as the series goes on, they get closer and closer together to aligning, although obviously they're still their own distinct characters. Either way, I feel like they have very similar overarching storylines, and so kind of got to put them in the same tier. Suki, Yikes. I don't really care about Suki. I don't think Sokka and Suki end up together according to the comics or the Legend of Korra. I don't really care either way. I mean, listen, she's cool. Kyoshi, that's her name. Kyoshi, right? Because Suki's a warrior of Kyoshi. I think they are cool and interesting. I think they show up in Ba Sing Se, right? And they like, I think they help Appa in that episode that I was talking about earlier, where Appa's kind of like escaping on his own. I think that's cool and all, but I don't know. Like, whatever. I don't care. Overall, it just seems like her main purpose is to help develop Sokka as a character. And I just don't think that's that interesting. You know, like helping Sokka become more mature. Helping him mature, right? As a warrior and as a person. That's great for Sokka. Suki, I feel like doesn't change that much. You know? That's all I got. This guy, he's even more boring than the inventor dude. Who cares about this guy? He's like in a wheelchair and he can fly. Cool. That's it. These Earthbender bros, I also don't care about them. I think these are all three are on the same tier. We got Toph. I'm gonna put Toph in probably A. Yeah, I mean, her storyline is kind of cool, right? It's like she's from like a noble family. She kind of reminds me of May, to be honest, except Toph is obviously more like living of a double life, whereas May just like doesn't really care. I think that's her name, right? I hope it's May. Toph doesn't really care about living, or excuse me, May doesn't really care about living a double life. Toph does. But yeah, you know, just born in the wrong generation, I guess. She has different tastes from her family, but whatever. Honestly, I feel like Toph doesn't change a ton as a character, but I do like her as a character. I think that, you know, what she shows throughout the show is pretty indicative of just who she is, right? She's like super carefree, but also like, you know, she's lived this whole life of just being sheltered kind of, and her only escape was through earthbending and all that. So it's kind of a cool character. Honestly, not the most interesting, but whatever. We got Tai Li, I think her name is, not Tai Chi, although she might use Tai Chi. You know what? I feel like I want to give her an A. She's definitely way more interesting than May. Or Mai. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. And like her interactions with Azula in the beach episode is cool. I don't know. That's it. I can't really explain it. She just is a charming character, right? I mean, look at her. She kind of looks like Aang, doesn't she? That's kind of weird. But yeah, you know, she does some cool things. Shows a lot of promise. Like I said, she's like a pretty nice foil to Azula as well. I like that. That's all I got. Okay. Zuko and Azula's mom. B. To be honest, she's not really that much of a character, is she? Like, she shows up a couple times, and she is not even that important for Zuko's story. Like, I feel like the extent of that is just, hey, she's related to the Avatar, and also she loved Zuko. And then on the flip side, she didn't love Azula that much, and that's like it, right? I feel like there was more focus placed on that whole storyline with like Ozen, their mom, Zuko and Azula's mom, and then Zuko and Azula, like their family relationships essentially. I feel like there was a little bit more focus placed on that. Could have maybe made the mom seem like more of an interesting character, but she really only shows up a couple times in some flashbacks. And honestly, it feels like her driving purpose isn't even related to Zuko, even though Zuko's whole thing, not his whole thing, but a decent amount of his character arc has to do kind of with like his relationship with his mom and his father. I feel like Azula's relationship with their mom was way more important, it felt like, in the formulation of her character. We have the owl. He's kind of cool. I'm gonna put him in the same tier as Momo and Appa. He's kind of similar, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of weird that there's like these grand spiritual beings that just exist, you know, and like what happened to him, right? He was tending the library and now the library is like gone or what? I think is he the one that made the library sink? Probably. So I don't know what the deal is with that. He's just like gonna be chilling down there forever. He's never gonna get updated records. I don't know what this deal is. Yue. She's the same tier as Suki. I think she's definitely less interesting as a character compared to Suki, but in general. You know what, Yue is way less of a character, isn't she? I'm gonna put her in D. I'm not gonna disrespect Suki that hard. I already disrespect her enough by putting her in C. Yue is like not even close. Yue is not even a character. She turns into the moon and that's it. That's her character arc. We have this dude. Final character. I'm gonna put him in B. I think that he only appears in season 1 and he is not super developed, but I do think that he works at kind of advancing Zuko's storyline, and he does provide, you know, some pretty decent like story progression, right? He serves an important role in season 1, obviously throughout the entire thing, and he plays a pivotal force in developing Aang and Zuko's relationship throughout season 1, which obviously carries on into the later seasons. So in that sense, I'll put him in B. If it's just him as a character, he's not interesting as a villain either. He's probably like C or D. All right. Not gonna lie, there's a lot less S characters than I thought. I think I'm probably being a bit more harsh just because I don't want to put so many characters in S tier. And again, keep in mind, it's been a while since I've seen the show. Okay, so if I forgot some things, then forgive me. But overall, I mean, listen, the show's great. Like I said, Zuko's the main character. Azula's the main antagonist, to be honest, that you need to care about. Everyone else, they're kind of just placeholders. But yeah, it's a great show. And definitely, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go watch it. But I think this is going to be my tier list. A lot of characters that only show up like once or twice. But even then, you know, even these characters that I put in D and C, I still remember who they are, mostly. Right? And like they still do interesting things and they still keep me interested when I'm watching those episodes, right? Like this sand dude, I still remember him, kind of, right? Secret police guy, I remember him. The waterbender from, what is it, the North Pole, South Pole, I still remember him. They only show up a couple times, but they still leave an impression and they still do play their part. So the show's great, that's all I have to say. But I've talked for long enough, so I think it's probably about time that I leave. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you have a good day, good night, wherever you are in the world. And I hope to see you next time for another Tier List Tuesday where I'm going to rate something else. I don't know what it's going to be, but we'll find out together. Thanks for watching.